people like me. You need people like me so you can point your f***ing fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Welcome to the mother relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. A recent post from Yokasta Valle, reigning unified minimum weight champion, one of two. Yokasta says, "My dream is to carry a positive message to the whole country. This opportunity touches us, the beautiful town of Carthage, where for 8 years I have run early mornings towards the Irazu volcano, and today I respectfully ask you to accompany me this November 4th at the Polideportivo of Carthage, facing a great Mexican champion that I always wanted to face in Anabel La Avispa Ortiz. Let's go with everything."
Anabel Ortiz, former WBA champion at minimum weight. She reigned as champion for something like 8 or 9 years.
Would service as yet another common opponent between Yokasta Valle and Senicia Estrada. The only two remaining champions at this weight. Yokasta Valle sports a professional record of 29 wins with 2 losses, no draws, 9 knockouts. She was last in action not but a few weeks ago against yet another common opponent between herself and Senicia Estrada. She took on Maria Centizio. Not only is Maria Centizio a common opponent between Yokasta and Senicia, but she's also a common opponent between Yokasta and Anabel. Anabel Ortiz, the former champion who sports a professional record of 33 wins with 5 losses, no draws, 4 knockouts, having only ever been knocked out once in 38 professional bouts.
She reigned as WBA champion for a long time, very long time, something like 8 or 9 years. Many title defenses. It was Senicia Estrada that ended her reign as champion.
In dominant fashion, well over a year ago. Since then, she lost that fight to Senicia, lost the decision. She then moved up in weight, took on Marlene Esparza up there at flyweight, lost the decision to her. And she has since rebounded off that loss in September of last year against Cindy Corona Chavez. Then again, she saw action again last year against Maria Centizio. It's been a year since Anabel Ortiz has fought. It's been a year since she last saw action, so she's going to have some ring rust that she needs to shake off. It's less than ideal that she's shaking it off with a champion, a unified champion at minimum weight.
Yokasta Valle.
Yokasta Valle, who's been busy, a characteristically busy fighter. Yokasta fought 4 times last year, and she's already seen action 2 times this year. This will be her 3rd fight of this year against the former champion, and yet another common opponent between herself and Senicia Estrada. I guess her handlers figure that if she's not fighting Estrada, this is the next best thing.
In their minds it is. The people at Top Rank, they already made a play to do the fight. They already made Yokasta an offer, and she said as much the night of Senicia Estrada's last fight.
The Leonela Paula Judica fight. It's not a secret that Top Rank made Yokasta an offer to come over to their side of things and do that fight, what would be the undisputed minimum weight title fight, but I guess Yokasta didn't like the money, and I guess what Yokasta figures is, for what they offered her, to gamble her 2 belts against Senicia, she can make that back in safer fights, much safer fights than the Estrada fight.
I don't know the exact number, but let's say that they offered Yokasta Valle something like 150, 200,000 to go do the fight with Senicia. What she might figure is,
I can make that in 2 fights, maybe a little more than that in 2 fights, 2 safe fights, as opposed to gambling it all on one dangerous one, because I don't know how committed Yokasta really is to fighting Senicia. She might want to wait her out.
Wait till she moves up, wait for somebody else to pick up those belts and then fight them, because Yokasta might stand a better chance against them than she does against Senicia. I would favor Senicia to beat Yokasta Valle.
And I am favoring Yokasta Valle to beat Anabel Ortiz next month. I think Anabel can make a fight of it. She can make it competitive, But Yokasta, she's a bit younger, a bit fresher, and she will have home field advantage.
Credit to her for staying busy, squeezing in another fight before this year is out.
And we'll talk more about the fight as the fight date approaches. In men's super lightweight news, it appears that Subriel Matias' mandated IBF title defense against Shohan Ergashev has landed on the undercard of the upcoming box office fight between David Benavidez and Demetrius Andrade. Decent fight.
Somewhat more interesting than that card's co-main event, the ring return of Jermall Charlo against Jose Benavidez.
At this time, I am still unsure of the contracted weight for that fight after 2 going on 3 years of inactivity. Is Jermall going to actually defend his middleweight title? Can he make middleweight? Can he still do that? In any event, this fight between Matias and Ergashev, for me and my money, is a more interesting fight than that fight. Subriel Matias,
IBF champion.
several months ago, there were rumors that the people at Matchroom were actually entertaining the idea of bringing Subriel Matias over to their side of things, that they were courting him. And I feel like there was a missed opportunity there for Subriel Matias that he should have struck while the iron was hot, because we all know what fight he was looking for. He was looking for the Regis Prograis fight, unification fight with that guy. When you think about what's on his own side of things, the PBC side of things, what big fights can he have there? Gervonta Davis isn't going to give him the time of day. Rolly Romero isn't either. Rolly Romero, who still is WBA champion, but for a limited time only.
Those guys aren't going to give him the time of day. He should have evaluated the landscape back then and realized there are no big fights that are going to happen for him at the PBC, and he should have crossed the street months ago.
The PBC have 1 or 2 bodies floating around that weight. Former IBF champion Sergey Lipinets, Gary Antoine Russell, the younger brother of Gary Russell, the same Gary Antoine Russell that walked away from a title shot against Alberto Puello, then WBA champion. If that
guy didn't want to fight for a title against Alberto Puello, why would he want to fight for a title against Subriel Matias? Alberto, he doesn't have Subriel's penchant for violence, his reputation.
He doesn't. That just because the PBC has 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 bodies at or around this weight, that doesn't mean that Subriel is going to be able to get them in the ring. That he should have struck while the iron was hot, and he should have tried harder to cross over to Matchroom months ago, because the situation as it is, Regis is about to fight Devin Haney. If Devin Haney beats him, I don't think Subriel is on Devin's radar. I think if Devin Haney becomes WBC champion, he might look to fight Teofimo Lopez, a champion at this weight, the same as those guys, with more of a profile.
I see a missed opportunity here. I see a missed opportunity for Subriel Matias, that now, unifying with Regis, that ship may have sailed. And you can call out Devin.
You can call him out. You can call him out till you're blue in the face. In fact, I think Subriel has already started calling him out, though I don't see Devin responding. And if Devin becomes WBC champion, I don't think he's going to waste any time on Subriel. There's too many risks for not enough rewards. For that, you might as well look to fight Teofimo.
Devin doesn't have a multi-fight deal with Matchroom. That means if he wins, he can go back over to Top Rank, start doing business with them, and see about doing a unification match, another pay-per-view with Teofimo.
He might. That Subriel, he might be the odd man out as a result of Devin Haney potentially beating Regis Prograis, because Devin might go unify with Teofimo. That's a bigger marquee fight, a bigger show than Haney versus Matias. So
I don't know what he's gonna do. Even if he takes care of business against Shohan Ergashev as mandatory on the undercard of Benavidez versus Andrade, what does he do after that? In terms of a big fight, who does he fight?
in terms of that fight with Shohan Ergashev, we're going to have to give Shohan Ergashev a closer look. An unbeaten Uzbekistan fighter who flies relatively low on the radar. Nobody's talking about this guy. Subriel Matias has got to fight him. And Subriel, now this guy, he's made for TV. He's all action. It's quite anomalous that such a fan-friendly fighter of Puerto Rican descent does not yet have a big following. His following isn't even as big as Edgar Berlanga's, but he is a better fighter than Edgar Berlanga.
Better fighter? He's a champion.
But a champion who to many will still seem like a high-risk, low reward. At least to Devin, who's got options if he takes care of business with Regis. For what it's worth, Matias versus Ergashev added to this card. It does add value to the show. It is a little bit more interesting. I do plan on purchasing it.
Though I'd be lying to you if I told you that it's box office worthy, that Benavidez versus Andrade is good enough to be billed as a pay-per-view. Not everybody follows the sport as closely as I or you.
It's a good fight, but it's not a great fight. This fight, the addition of it to that show, it does add value to it because Subriel Matias, this guy really is made for TV.
Look for this on the undercard of Benavidez versus Andrade, and we'll talk more about the fight as the fight date approaches.
That come from the payday comment?
He talking payday this, I'm a horrible fighter. And then, you know, people like send me things about like him. Somebody asked him a question about, oh, what about David Benavidez, Dimitri Andrade? Then he goes 50-50 fight. So how am I a horrible fighter and then fighting David Benavidez is a 50-50 fight? But needless to say, at the end of the day, it's like, you know, Canelo's a great fighter. He, you know, is making his mark. He dictates how he wants to do it. He's doing a good job at it. At the end of the day, I respect that. But him disrespecting me in the way he did, it was just like, fuck.
Listen, I don't expect Demetrius Andrade to be happy with the things that Canelo Alvarez said to him well over a year ago. I believe that was after the Saunders fight. I don't expect Demetrius to be happy with any of that stuff any more than I expect Canelo to be happy with Demetrius crashing his party and trying to make it about himself. That so soon after unifying a title with a champion at the weight, an unbeaten one, something Demetrius has never done. In fact, Demetrius has walked away from a lot of fights, a lot of good fights with good fighters. I don't expect Canelo to be happy with that either. So if you're Canelo and you're sitting from where Canelo's sitting, it seems like this is just another guy coming to you with his hands out because he doesn't want to fight any other good fighters, but he wants to fight you for what are obvious reasons. For the payday.
Okay, next question. Just payday. You want payday. I know that.
Watch your mouth, bro. Watch your mouth. Watch your mouth. When I see you, it's on.
Yeah. I see your side. Yeah, man.
No, I don't expect Demetrius to be happy with what Canelo said, but I don't expect Canelo to be happy with Demetrius either. That it's Canelo's night, it was his unification match, and here comes a fighter that doesn't seem to show the same ambition that Canelo does unless there's an inordinate amount of money attached. So if you're Canelo, it just seems like this guy's coming for a handout. That's how it's going to look to him. I don't expect either fighter to be happy with that exchange in that situation, though it seems that because Demetrius is still talking about it, it stuck with him. It really stuck up his crawl. And he didn't like that. A lot of people got a kick out of it. I did.
Okay, a lot of people
Get the fuck out of here, man. Please, get the fuck out of here, man. It's my night. Who I'm fighting? No, get the fuck out of here, man. Get the fuck out of here.
get out of here. Why the fuck you? Don't talk to my dad like that. Why fuck you? We don't get that.
Hey, get the fuck out of here because I'm gonna fuck you up right now, motherfucker.
Come. Get out of here. Be a bitch.
Oh,
All that energy, all of that hostility, that if Demetrius would show that towards other fights with other fighters, I mean, if you're Canelo, the way it looks, and all the rancor these fighters have for you, it's just because they're trying to get at what you've got. No, we're not talking about the belts. There's a lot of guys that have had belts and all that different stuff. It's just they want your money. They want the fanfare and the money that comes with fighting you. That's how it's going to look to Canelo. At the end of the day, it's an occupational hazard. And as stated, I don't expect Demetrius to be happy with any of that any more than I expected Canelo to be happy with any of that. It just is what it is. The silver lining is Demetrius Andrade is about to fight David Benavidez for the chance to become Canelo's WBC mandatory challenger. And if he can get the job done, he comes that much closer to that fight. Though the idea that Demetrius Andrade, of all people, who is several years older than Canelo, that he's going to wag his finger in Canelo's face and tell him what's what and who is he fighting, I mean, for that to come from Demetrius.
Read the room, buddy. You're in no position to talk. You're in no position to criticize his quality of competition, him least of all. Why? Because he didn't fight you?
Who are you? Who are you supposed to be? What's supposed to make you so special? It can't be who you've fought so far. It can't be your resume. So, if you're Canelo and you just fought a guy, you just beat a guy, you just unified titles, you don't want guys coming up to you crashing your party. That's what it all boils down to.
It was a good fight, bro. It was, like I said, I'm not going to discredit Canelo. He went in there, he did what he had to do. He fought another undisputed fighter, another undisputed champion, so he did what he had to do. I think the WBC has to do the right thing, and if Canelo doesn't want to fight me, then they should strip him and let me fight for the title. I've been the #1 contender for the past 2 years, and I've been doing my job, I've been doing my thing. That's what happens when you're #1 contender, you fight for the belt. So I think they should do the right thing, and if he doesn't want to fight, strip him of the title. But like I said, at the end of the day, I want to make my own lane. I don't want to just be that fighter waiting for Canelo.
When David says that he doesn't want to be that fighter that just sits around waiting for Canelo, you can't help but think of Demetrius Andrade. You can't help but think that maybe that's who he had in mind when he said that, because in spite of Demetrius having been a 2-division champion, an unbeaten one, he's got very little to show for it. Very little in terms of memorable fights and marquee value. This is the biggest fight of Demetrius' career, and he is in fact older than Canelo. He's in his mid-30s. He's actually over the hump, I think. He's 36. So when David says that, I feel like he has Demetrius in mind, and he is right about that much. You have to carve out a lane for yourself. You have to amass
your own marquee value, your own following.
Glimmer of intellect there from David Benavidez, who sometimes sounds different than, his promoter and his father, his trainer, that he is right about that. You have to go out there, carve out a lane of your own, a lane for yourself, amass your own marquee value, your own fans. You have to do something with yourself besides waiting for the Canelo Alvarez sweepstakes. And I feel like Demetrius Andrade has been guilty of this, that there were too many fights that he walked away from, too many fights that he put on the back burner, and as a result, it left him with very little to show for it. If he would have fought Yanni Alimkhanalai when he was ordered to fight him well over a year ago, he could have got a 7-figure payday out of that, and I felt like that fight with Yanni was more winnable than this fight with David.
It took for Demetrius Andrade to be completely out of options before facing a live body, a live animal.
Now it's almost like he doesn't have a choice but to fight a dangerous fighter in what is a dangerous fight, at least for him. David also stated that he feels that if he takes care of business with Demetrius and Canelo doesn't want to give him the time of day, he doesn't want to fight him, that the WBC should strip him. At this time, I see no reason for Canelo Alvarez not to fight the winner of this fight in Cinco de Mayo of the following year. The schedules line up perfectly. That if David takes care of business or Demetrius takes care of business, Canelo should fight the winner, and I hope that he does, because if you don't want to give Terrence Crawford the time of day, you might as well fight the winner of this fight. Makes for a big fight.
Sold something like 600, 700,000 pay-per-view buys with Jermell Charlo. He could sell more than that with the winner of this fight, especially if the winner is David Benavidez.
And I'm not a big believer in David's boxing. I don't agree with everything he says, but I do agree with this, that if he takes care of business, Canelo should fight him. I agree with that.
I can't think of a reason for Canelo not to fight him. He's just mandatory, right?